Hello again and welcome to Chapter 8, where we will be discussing the topic of interventions. I'm going to take a slightly different approach in terms of how I'm going to organize the material from the way it's presented in the chapter. We'll cover pretty much all the same information, just in a slightly different arrangement. I'd like to address the topic of interventions by looking at it in three different categories of approaches, that being informational approaches, the second being behavioral and social approaches, and finally, policy and environmental approaches. And in the last topic, we will look more specifically at choosing for your program plans which interventions might be best suited. So I'm going to break this into three different videos for you to look at and start with number 1, 2, and 3. And 3 will also include topic number 4 about choosing your plans. So here we go with informational interventions. But before that, we'll start with the question of what is an intervention. An intervention is an activity or a set of activities that help to come between old and new behaviors, or in other words, to achieve the outcomes stated in the goals and objectives of a program plan. An intervention is a theory-based strategy or experience to which those in the priority population will be exposed or in which they will take part. And an intervention is something that's applied across time and evaluated for its effect or impact. So in program planning, we strive for interventions to be effective, that meaning that they lead to the desired outcome, and efficient, that they use resources in a responsible manner. And the interventions are measured in terms of multiplicity, meaning the number of activities that are involved, and the dose, or how often those activities occur across time. So in terms of the types of intervention strategies, first of all, a strategy is a general plan of action for affecting a health problem. It may encompass several activities. And to summarize again the types of strategies that we're going to consider, we will look at informational, behavioral and social, and then environmental and policy strategies. There's an abundant amount of research data available now and is continuing to be gathered and analyzed by the Center for Disease Control and other agencies, and is being compiled in a website called the Community Guide, which is hot linked here. The Community Guide is an ever-expanding resource for recommendations on evidence-based interventions to improve public health. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services established a task force on community prevention services in 1996. So this has been around for quite a few years now. The goal of which was to clarify which community-based health promotion and disease prevention interventions work and which do not work. It offers decision makers strategies for preventing or addressing health problems. It is a public health tool. So let's talk strategically. Informational approaches combine both health communication strategies, as discussed in your textbook, and health education strategies. And it's based on the idea that when people are informed about the health benefits of certain behaviors, they will change their behavior for the better. The idea that knowledge is power. So I love this little wordle where it talks about health intervention, communication campaigns, healthy behaviors, social marketing, community-based campaigns. All of these terms are associated with informational approaches. So I'm putting health communications as the first topic in informational approaches. These are designed to inform and influence individual and community decisions to improve health. So informational approaches usually are a part of most interventions, and they're used in reaching a wide variety of goals and objectives. Health communication has the potential for a high penetration rate. In other words, both high in terms of multiplicity and dose. They are more cost-effective and less threatening than other strategies, and they can be applied across multiple sectors, in terms of sectors such as healthcare, communities, schools, workplaces, local, state, and national organizations. Health communication strategies can be used everywhere and all the time. So here's an example of a health communication strategy that you may have seen, maybe on a poster, maybe in a television ad, maybe even on your Facebook page. You just ate 26 packs of sugar. And so it's picturing a soda with all the sugar packs going into it. are you pouring on the pounds? Find out at. So it provides information about where to go for more information. So a communication channel then is a route through which a message is disseminated to the priority population. And the tools for health communication are borrowed directly from marketing. And this diagram simply shows you all the different multi-channel marketing portals, if you will, or communication channels. It could be print ads, could be on a website, even business cards, direct mail, email, videos, articles, blogs are becoming a very popular source of health communication. Social media sites, broadcast media, all these different channels are available for health communication. Your textbook presents the multi-directional communication model, which is really helpful for visualizing all the different ways that health communication happens. We typically think of this primarily from the vertical or expert-generated messages that's on the top, where experts and healthcare agencies, public health, direct medical consultations, health fairs, school curriculum, maybe health education courses and workshops, those are all part of the vertical expert-generated messages. And what's emerging now in the last 10 to 15 years or so are more bottom-up and user-generated messages, as well as horizontal and side-to-side information sharing. Consumers are becoming more active participants by creating, seeking, and sharing information using a variety of channels and devices. I know, for example, that in Healthy PSU, we communicate both ways between experts and consumers on both our Twitter pages and our Facebook pages. And more consumers are becoming information seekers. They're going out to find out information by looking on websites, looking at Wikipedia, looking at WebMD, and then going directly to some of the agency websites, the American Heart Association, the American Lung Association, and then any website that might support information on a particular condition that they may have. So this model kind of incorporates all the different types of media channels that are now available to us that we can use in developing our program plan. So the 5 traditional channels include the intrapersonal, healthcare providers, health coaches, and various hotlines where people can get direct intrapersonal information. Interpersonal communication happens in small classes or support groups. Organizational communications happen in things like church bulletins, company or agency newsletters. Then we have mass media, which are newspaper press releases, possibly ads, billboards, magazine, public service announcements, and many others. And finally, the social media, which I mentioned earlier, where we have user or consumer generated. And sometimes it's organized and distributed, sometimes it's impromptu. And information can be revised or updated almost immediately. Typically costs very little in terms of creation and maintenance, and comes in varieties of forms now, Facebook and Twitter, and even text messaging between people or between providers and consumers. Very rich communication stream. So when we think strategically about social media, your textbook provides Table 8.1, which presents the POST model, or People, Objectives, Strategy, and Technology, which helps planners in creating health promotion interventions that include social media. So it asks some particular questions by different researchers. What are they ready to do in terms of the people, and what technology do they use and why? For example, in thinking about how to commute with our seniors in the program that I've talked about previously, the Soulmates walking program, these participants are primarily older adults, and we found out that they do not have cell phones and they do not have computers at home. And so the mechanisms of communicating health messages to this particular group of people could not involve social media at all. In the Matter of Balance campaign, we learned that about 3/4 of the people were using social media and did communicate by email. So we've been able to use social media more robustly with that particular group. With the college age population, oh my gosh, social media is all over the place. And they use not just general technology, but at Plymouth State University in our student wellness program, we're looking at very specifically which social media channels are most popular among the various student groups. So an objective might be, why do you want to pursue this groundswell, or what do you need or want to happen, the change in attitudes. Then considering what kind of strategy is actually going to work and what technology will be best to use. So two other elements or concepts that we need to talk about in terms of health communication strategies are health literacy. And this is simply the degree to which individuals have the capacity to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and services to make appropriate health decisions. And health literacy is much like reading literacy. It comes in all levels, and we need to be clear on our health communication regarding what level of literacy we are directing the communications to. And we need to make sure that both the reading level and the concept level is appropriate to our audience. The simpler sometimes, the better. So for example, we tend to target reading level of between 6th and 8th grade, and your textbook provides some really good tools for analyzing the media that you're producing in terms of health literacy. I'm not going to spend time on that in this course, other than to ask that as we begin to develop materials for our program plans, we might carefully analyze them to make sure they're hitting between around the 6th and the 8th or 9th grade level. Health numeracy then is the degree to which individuals have the capacity to, again, access, process, interpret, communicate, and act on numerical or quantitative, graphical, or biostatistical information to make effective health decisions. So it's why we talked about in our rationale statements the use of social statistics, or bringing numbers down to a conceptual level where people can think about 1 out of 4 or 2 out of 5, rather than in terms of percentages. So health education specialists need to work to ensure that health communication interventions are appropriate for their priority population. So the next approach in informational approaches is the health education strategies. And health education and health communication are not mutually exclusive, meaning that we health communicate when we health educate, and we health educate when we health communicate. So health education is different in that it provides the opportunity to gain in-depth knowledge about a particular health topic, where health communication primarily informs or increases the level of awareness. Health education goes a bit deeper and gives people opportunities to move in terms of both knowledge and skills. So it applies appropriate methods and events for learning. So there's generally a curriculum or a course of study, what those in the priority population will be taught or will be learning. There is a scope in terms of breadth and depth of material to be covered, and there's a planned sequence or how the information will be presented across time. So those of you who are in education are very familiar with this. We cover this in one of our other undergraduate courses on promoting health across the lifespan, where we actually look at creating learning plans for various health education activities. And the 10 general principles of learning that we have to keep in mind before and during the design of a curriculum are, number 1, the appeal to multiple senses. We try to add seeing, hearing, touching, speaking, really getting involved with the material or the information. For example, teaching nutrition is really enhanced by the opportunity to go in and actually work with food in some sort of a cooking activity, or maybe a harvesting activity in the garden for children, maybe even to the extent of planting the seeds, going across time, learning about foods, and finally harvesting and cooking those very foods. Getting the learner active in the learning process, limiting distractions, making sure learners are ready to learn, and making the subject relevant to the participants. Using repetition and making sure that learning is recognized and encouraged. That might come through assessment of learning. Move from simple to complex concepts, and then make the concepts applicable to several settings or generalize them, and finding an appropriate pace for the audience. When we talk about health education units of study, these are defined as an orderly, self-contained collection of activities educationally designed to meet a set of objectives. And other terms for this are curriculum plans, modules, and strands. So when we do a program plan and we design units of study, we typically divide this into lessons, and the lessons are outlined in what we call lesson plans. And many methods are used for presenting lessons, lectures and discussions, group work, using audio visuals, and your book has a rich set of teaching methods for using with people of all ages. In Kinsey's modification of Gagne's events of instruction, a lesson should include opportunities to gain attention, or sometimes called an induction, which conveys health threats and benefits. Some opportunity to present stimulus material, or to tailor the message to the audience, to their knowledge and values, to demonstrate observable effectiveness and make behaviors easy to understand and do, to provide guidance, use trustworthy models to demonstrate, to elicit performance and provide feedback, and to enhance retention and transfer. So I've actually used a picture here of a group of older adults doing a physical activity. And I can reflect on these components of the health education lesson in, again, this program that we've just been launching at Plymouth State, where gaining attention is what we plan for each session. We bring the group together in a classroom and we ask some critical questions, and we get them to actively provide either oral or written answers to those questions, and then we discuss those questions. And we use questions that are very germane to their lives. And all of these participants are well over 70 years old, so the questions have to do with maybe challenges that they're facing in life in terms of their health or their physical activity or their walking. Or we begin to ask them informational questions about adaptation to exercise or benefits of exercise. So these question and answer periods actually gain their attention and present stimulus. And they then provide guidance because we have guest speakers who come in who are experts. And then when we go upstairs to the track and we actually start to do our walking, this is providing performance and feedback where they begin to develop self-efficacy around walking. So we have them using their pedometers as they walk on the track. We have them doing different types of walking, and we have them checking their heart rate as they walk. And this repetition helps to enhance retention and transfer. And because they're doing it in a buddy system, they're having social support and behavioral cues. So each and every one of our group meetings has all of these elements in its lesson plan. So some characteristics of effective health education curricula, and there are 5 elements. It has defined health goals and behaviors linked to the goals, based in research and grounded in theory. It defines and describes age-appropriate peer and social norms for health behavior, anchored in health values and beliefs. It helps learners understand their own personal risk for certain health behaviors and teaches skills for dealing with social pressures to engage in harmful or risky health behaviors. Provides adequate time for instruction, reinforcement of lessons, skills, and behavioral practice. Now, we can't always have the ideal situation, but these certainly are critical elements for effective health education curriculum. This is a model of a lesson plan format, and in our program plans, I'm not going to have you write lesson plans for each and every lesson, but I am going to have you outline the framework for the lessons that you have planned in terms of health education for your program. So the next video will be on behavioral and social approaches to health promotion interventions. Signing off.